There are many new developments on the Avdiivka front. The Russian army does not give up the Avdiivka region. Although it has lost thousands of soldiers and equipment in the region, it continues its counter-offensive operations. The Russians had slowed down their offensive operations to regain their strength after numerous unsuccessful operations in the North of Avdiivka region. Having regrouped in the region, the Russians launched a wave of attacks on the northern flank of Avdiivka. Previously, the most intense clashes took place in the northern part of Avdiivka. The Russians tried to move towards the chemical plant area. The Russian army had previously tried to break through the Ukrainian defenses in this area and suffered many casualties. Russia did not give up the idea of occupying this area. You can share your thoughts about our reports with us by commenting. Team Ozillo reads all your comments and values your opinions. The Russians launched a new wave of attacks to establish a foothold north of Avdiivka. The Russians have conducted numerous operations in and around the chemical plant. It is very difficult to fight in this area because it's very complex. It is very difficult to recognize any traps in this area. For this reason, the Russians have lost many soldiers here before. The Russians use the same road they used before to reach the region, but this road is full of wrecks of Russian armored vehicles. However, the Russian army seems not to have learned a lesson from this situation, because they continue to use this route. There are many destroyed Russian armored vehicles on the road right in front of the chemical factory. In fact, the reason why they are trying the tactics they have tried before again is that they are not fully prepared for this attack. In our previous report, we reported that the Ukrainian army organized an offensive operation against the Avdiivka region, which Russia uses as a logistics center. The Ukrainian army, which carried out offensive operations against the supply routes in this region, reported that it destroyed a large number of Russian equipment and armored vehicles. For this reason, the Russians were not well prepared for the operation north of Avdiivka. The strategy adopted by the Ukrainian army had worked. The Russian army had no choice but to follow its old plan. The Russian army attacked the area just in front of the chemical plant in order to regain control of it. The Russian army wanted to push the Ukrainian defense line backwards by advancing through the wooded area and moving towards the chemical plant. However, the Ukrainian army opened fire at the point where the Russian troops were concentrated and tried to slow down the speed of the Russians. The Russians controlled the wooded area right in front of the plant and sent more troops to the area to capture the power plant. The Russians opened fire at the point where Ukrainian troops were concentrated in order to reduce the Ukrainian firepower at this point and to move to the area, but failed to do so. Ukrainian troops on the outskirts of the Stepove destroyed the Russian troops. Ukrainian soldiers reported that the Russian attacked the area with more than 20 armored vehicles and a large number of infantry. However, the Ukrainian army managed to repel the Russian attack on this chemical plant and destroyed 90% of the Russian troops. The surviving Russian soldiers chose to flee. We had stated that the Ukrainian army's offensive in the Avdiivka region was very important and that offensive operations on critical routes in this region would slow down the speed of the Russians considerably and disrupt the concentration of the troops. The Ukrainian army took the Russian troops, who thought that they had gathered their strength and organized an operation against the chemical plant, by surprise and neutralized most of them. The Ukrainian army won a major strategic victory. The Russians carried out another failed operation in Avdiivka. Each unsuccessful operation drains the hopes of Russian soldiers a little more. An unhappy and faithless soldier can never succeed in war. This is exactly what Ukraine wants to do. The number of Russian soldiers who prefer to flee instead of fighting after the operation they lost continues to increase day by day. This summarizes the situation of the Russian army. We can see that Russian leader Vladimir Putin's decisions and strategies are completely wrong. The Russian army thought it was recovering and organized an offensive operation to overcome the Ukrainian defense blocks. However, they were not ready to launch a strong offensive, and the route they chose to advance was very wrong. It was the Ukrainian army's strategy that caused the Russians to make so many mistakes. As a result, the Russian operation north of Avdiivka failed. The Russians lost a large number of soldiers and equipment here. The number of military personnel and equipment lost by the Russians scares the Kremlin, because the losses of the Russian army started to increase very rapidly after the offensive in the Avdiivka region. Most soldiers in the Russian army think that the situation in Avdiivka is similar to the situation in Bakhmut, and that Russia will not succeed here. A soldier without hope and strength is unlikely to succeed on the front line. Putin wants the Avdiivka region, so we think that the Russian offensive will continue in the Avdiivka region. However, the Russian army will continue to lose soldiers and equipment here. In the Tavria direction, Ukrainian forces inflicted many losses on Russian troops in the past day. In the last 24 hours, the Ukrainian army destroyed 639 Russian soldiers in the Tavria region, and 13 invaders chose to surrender. The Ukrainian armed forces destroyed 13 pieces of military equipment belonging to the Russian invaders: 3 tanks, 2 armored combat vehicles, 1 arc system, 1 ATGM, 3 drones. 3 cars were destroyed by the Ukrainian army. In addition, 3 ammunition depots belonging to the Russians were destroyed. The Russians also continue their operations with unmanned aerial vehicles. However, these attacks are prevented by the Ukrainian army. The Ukrainian army reported that it destroyed 8 Iranian-made Shahed unmanned aerial vehicles belonging to the Russians. As a result of combat operations, the Ukrainian Defense Forces Air Defense destroyed 8 Shahed 131-136 UAVs. According to Lieutenant General Sergei Naiev, the commander of the Joint Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Mobile Air Defense Fire Groups of the Operational Command North destroyed 3 drones. 1 attack drone was destroyed in the sky of the Kiev region, and 2 more kamikaze drones were destroyed in the Sumy direction, one of which was in the sky of the Poltava region. Additionally, it was revealed that 2 UAVs were shot down overnight in the Dnipro region, landing in the Novomoskovsky and Sinikolsky districts. Although Russian troops are trying to break through Ukrainian defenses in critical areas with both drones, fighter jets, and ground operations, the Ukrainian army manages to prevent strong Russian attacks. The Russian army has carried out many offensive operations over the past week, but has also lost a large number of soldiers and equipment. Over the week of November 20th and 26th, the Ukrainian military killed 6,260 Russian soldiers. The Ukrainian armed forces also managed to destroy 146 UAVs, 130 artillery systems, and 78 tanks, reports the Deputy Defense Minister, Lieutenant General Alexander Pavliev. While Russia's losses in the Ukrainian war reached 1,070 military personnel per day, the total number of military personnel losses of the Russian army since the beginning of the occupation reached 324,830.